Hi, this is Phil, Dirty Drive Away. So this is going to be the last part. I know I said that in one of the other videos. Last video I did was comparing the two engines. I was going to combine the pump gearbox add-on, but it would have made the video too long, so I separated it. So this is going to be the final part of the video. This is going to be the remating of the gearbox to the engine. This is a brand new engine, and we're going to basically just go through the procedure to remount this and reconnect it back up. Just very quickly before I start, I thought I'd show you that quick drain style bus oil drain cap plug. It's basically this thing here. If you do buy these, you will need to source a converter. Obviously these are American engines, and I think the drain plug, it could be a got a funny feeling it's a 3/4 inch or a 3/8 inch NPT, and they don't, Stylebus don't make these, as far as I'm aware, in the size to fit this engine. I did search on their website and it's not listed. So what I've basically got is these are 1/4 inch NPT drain valves. You can buy them in different threads, BSPs and M to M, metric sizes. So you'd need a converter to basically convert it from whatever that is to this. I don't know exactly off the top of my head. I'll probably leave it in the comments box below. I do know I've got it on the fiche, but yeah. So basically you need a converter. So you'd screw this brass piece in. I've actually got another one of these come in, a stainless version, so I won't be using this. But you basically thread that in, make sure you put plenty of Loctite on it, thread that into the engine, and then obviously you just screw this in. And then what you've got is you've got this nice little aluminium cap that screws over the top with a little O-ring inside to seal it up. That keeps all the crud out, and then just obviously seals the check valve away. Because you will see that inside here there's a little ball bearing, and it comes with this 1/4 inch connector with the tube. So basically you just push that in and twist it. Once you twist it, it will then drain into a container of your choice. Once you're finished, disconnect, then obviously it will lock it off. The oil won't flow out. So it makes it a lot easier on these engines. So that's basically what it is. Stylebus NPT. I'll tell you what I'll do. I've got it on my phone. I'll pause this and I'll find out exactly what size that is for you. Right, so I've just checked. It's a 3/8 NPT thread that they put inside the drain. And they don't do it in a 3/8, so you have to knock it down to a 1/4 inch NPT. So these little brass converters, they're 3/8 NPT to 1/4 inch NPT, in case you're interested. That little wire you saw me pick up, that again in my previous video I mentioned about them not having the charging wire. That basic little wire there that plugs into the side, that'll give you the charging, so when the engine's running it will charge your battery. Right. So getting the gearbox back in. Obviously we've got a fresh engine, so we've got a nice clean shaft on here, so it should mate up quite easily. It should mate up quite nicely. I'm going to try and get you in for a closer angle. Right, let's move you in. See if we can. Let's pan you down. Right, so there may be a little clue in this video as to what colour the trolley is. If you can't see it, then study hard, but you should be able to see what colour the jet wash is going to be. So basically what we've got the shaft, you've got your key. In here you've got your keyway. Now I've heard people trying to mate these back up and wondering why it's not going on, they start thumping on the back of the pump. Obviously in here, this is obviously heavy, so it is supported. In here you can see you've got a keyway on the inside of the shaft, the female shaft. That has got to mate up with that. Obviously if this is in the wrong position to that, it's never going to go on. So common sense, that has to be in approximately the same position as that before you start trying to mate these together. You can use the pull cord on the side of the engine to gently rotate. If you see me pull it very, very slightly, you'll see that the shaft on there will move. You haven't got a yoink on this, because if there was fuel or anything in it, it would start. So just gently you rotate it until you get it into a position that is approximate to where the so you can see the gearbox is roughly 11 o'clock, so you're going to want that key on there at roughly the same. It's got nice compression on this new engine, so roughly there until you can eye it up. So obviously the pump and gearbox, it is sort of back heavy. So once this is actually supported by that 1/2" BSP quick release connector I've got. So you're going to want to move it into position. It's going to need to go square on. You can see my nice new sight glass that I put on there, nice aluminium sight glass. I managed to torque that up to 24 Newton meters, which is twice the torque that the original plastic one was, that shit plastic thing. Okay, I'm just going to have a little quick look back into 2 ticks. Okay, so having a quick eye up, the front end of this pump is a lot lower, so it's on a bit of a piss. Even though it's supported, it's not supported enough to make the actual pump flat, so it will take a little bit of wiggle to get this to mate. It's actually quite awkward trying to do it when the camera's in the way, but yeah, basically you get your keyway lined up and get it going. Okay, it got a little bit complicated there, trying to get the right position to get this thing back on without, basically all I'm about to show you is the back of my head. So I pushed it in. What I also done was put a little smear of anti-seizing compound on that slide just to help it in the future. I've just got some of this. It's anti-seize lubricant, very similar to copper grease, but it's silver. I got this in America, so I doubt you'll get that over here. But just some normal everyday sort of copper grease would work, just to help it. You can see what colour the jet wash is going to be. Hint, hint. So yeah, just basically eye it up, make sure your keyway's in the right place, and you should find that it will just slide straight in like so. And to be fair, it's not a particularly long video. It's not a hard procedure. If your shaft was a little bit rusty, make sure you give it a good clean. Perhaps use a bit of wire wool or something on there to clean the rust off. It'll just make your life a lot easier trying to get it all back together. And then put a little bit of anti-slip on the, or anti-seize on the shaft. Now all you got to do is basically find the bolts that you originally had that held the gearbox in, which I know are around here somewhere. So got the bolts. I'm going to assume that these could be an American thread. I'd like to replace these for stainless, so I'm going to measure them up and see what size they are. If I can replace these for stainless, I will, because obviously, as you can see, if it'll focus, they do like to corrode a little bit. So yeah, so basically that's it. So basically, yeah, screw it all back together. I've done it in a different way round this time. You saw on the removal video, I took the whole engine out with the skid pan at the bottom. But obviously, because I've had the jet wash all recoated, I don't want to end up gashing the shit out of it. So basically, I'm going to have all this in here, have it all mounted together, and then with the missus's help, we'll lift the whole lot as one piece and just rest it onto the skid. So then obviously I can just pop the bolts in and then reconnect up all the battery and stuff after. Put all the fluids in once I've got it inside the actual cradle. The new engines come dry, there's no oil in there, and obviously these are all still dry. There's no oil. There's no oil in the pump, there's no oil in the gearbox. So I'm going to get all this back together, and then I shall show the reveal in a little while. Right, so I was doing a little bit of fettling, should I say. I went to take the drain plug out to install the Style Bus quick release drain valve, and I was just checking the fitment of the gearbox and the pump, and I've come across a little bit of an issue. I don't know whether it is with the engine or whether it is with the bracket. I'm not too sure, but it's going to take a little bit of delving. I'm not too sure if you can see, so I may just have to lower you down a little bit. But basically, what I've done is obviously I mounted the gearbox onto the engine. It took a little bit of jiggery pokery, but it slid straight on there. I put some of the grease on the shaft, but you can see down here that the engine is not sitting flat. So it sits flat down here, but it's lifting here. So obviously, the gearbox assembly when it's on the bracket is making the engine tilt ever so slightly. And it's actually resting on the rear sort of fan cover, flywheel cover on the back, which is this black piece here. So obviously, I don't remember the original doing that. I've had a look at the other videos that I did, and when I took this assembly off, it was all quite flat on the skid. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of digging, and perhaps take this gearbox assembly off and put the two engines side by side, just to make sure there isn't any discrepancy in the height of this compared to the level of the output spindle. It's not a massive amount, it's only a few mil, but it'll be enough that when you put this back into the skid, although the bolts will go in, if you obviously tighten down on them, you're going to put pressure on that, which in turn is going to put a lot of pressure on that output shaft on the engine, which could lead to premature bearing failure, seal failure, etc. So I want to make sure that it is spot on. Well, obviously this bracket's been powder coated, but I can't see that the powder coat on the bottom and the top there would take that discrepancy, because that's quite a lot. There's no way you're going to get sort of 3 mil, sort of 2 to 3 mil worth of powder coat just to take that gap up. So I'm going to see what happens. There may be a slight discrepancy with the shaft heights. If so, just have to get a bit of aluminium plate or something and just make up some kind of spacer for the engine. Which is not an issue, but I like to find out why it's doing it, so I know how to go forward and fix it, rather than just wrenching a bolt down on that and potentially doing some damage, putting undue stress on the bottom of the casing or on the spindle shaft. But I'm going to lower you down so you can get a better view, so you can see what I mean. Right, so you can see this plate is sitting flat on the workbench, or as flat as it's going to be. It hasn't got to be absolutely spot on. But you can see obviously there's a gap, and it's rested on the rear housing. So yeah, a little bit of investigation work, and I'll come back to you as soon as I've found a potential solution. Okay, welcome back. So you would have seen in the previous clip where I cut it short, I was having some issues with the clearance on the bottom of the engine. Now, I spoke to a couple of people about this, and there may be a very, very slight variation in the height of the shaft, but we're only talking minimal amounts. But basically, I was told to put it onto the skid and try and tighten it up and see what happens. And basically, what you're looking for is any kind of tightness in that bolt as you're tightening it down. Now, I was told by a very good source that the actual bottom skid rail is only obviously a mild steel. It's not a super thick steel, so it's got quite a lot of flex in it. And basically, they told me tighten it up and just make sure that the skid tray is actually moving and you're not putting undue pressure onto the engine. And by that he basically means, obviously if you are putting too much pressure, you will notice that the bolts will get incredibly tight, because you're putting a lot of strain on that output shaft. So I did what he said. I put it into the skid, and believe it or not, once I actually put it in the skid and had everything kind of in place, there was a very minimal gap. It was nothing like what I was showing you when it was on the bench, so there obviously could be a discrepancy with how flat or how straight my bench is. Obviously my bench has been used and abused, so I dare say it's probably not very flat. So that may have hindered the process a little bit by not having a completely flat bench. So there was only perhaps a mil and a half clearance underneath the engine by the time I put it in the skid. So yeah, I bolted it all back up and it all went back in fine. I wasn't going to go through the long-winded process of showing you the installation process, because it's exactly the same as the reverse. Basically the washer's all finished, the engine pump, everything's in. I've tested it, it works perfectly fine. I've not run it up to pressure yet, but I have had it at full speed. I've just got to do a few more bits and pieces to it. So I was basically getting ready to give you the reveal of what the washer looks like now. So bear with me. So in case you forgot what the original jet wash looked like, I'll flash up a picture right now. And here is what she looks like now. As you can see, candy purple was the colour of choice. No thanks to my daughter. I have a 4-year-old girl, and I gave her the choice of what colour we should paint or have the jet wash coated. And unfortunately I had a choice between either candy purple or pink. Now it's actually a very nice candy purple, and I really like it. The guy done an absolutely amazing job. It's powder coated. It's quite hard to get these powder coated in candy colours. The guy actually imports these colours from the States, and he done an absolutely banging job on this. If you are local or you're in the Kent area, the guy's name was Curtis. You can look him up online. I think he goes under CPS, and they're based just outside Sevenoaks. Done a blinding job on this. I think he charged me a £1 all in, and that was to blast it all, get all the old paint off, and recoat the main trolley, the skid, and the bracket underneath. And he also re-zinced the washers that were on the wheels. So yeah, amazing job. Turned it out in a couple of weeks for me. I wasn't in a mental rush. So yeah, basically the washer's finished. I've just got a few bits to finish up on here. I've just got to put the high pressure hose on, which obviously goes from the main unloader valve and then hooks into the big 40-meter hose reel that I've got, which needs to be mounted to the front here. I'll see if I can get you in a bit closer and show you some of the smaller upgrades I've done to the front sort of inlet side. So let's go. I'm going to pause it and come in. So you can see what I've added here. Obviously you've got your unloader valve. This is pretty much as it was with your 3/8 quick release outlet on it. That was always on there. This is the intake or the suction delivery hose, which will go into your water supply. Normally they've got a hose barb on there, which is just Jubilee clipped on, which is absolutely fine. But obviously I tend to find that when you want to actually disconnect it, you have to undo the Jubilee clips and wiggle the reinforced hose. So now what I've done is I've put the quick release cam lock on here. It's a stainless cam lock, so it just basically goes on, pull the levers back, that's connected. It's got a big rubber seal on the inside. And then for the bypass on the unloader, again, that used to have a hose barb on there with a hose which just Jubilee clipped on there, and again that was a pain in the bum because every time you took it out it just pissed water everywhere. You ended up with loads of water in the van. So what I added was this this massive 1/2 inch quick release coupling, same as this, but it's 1/2 inch, which has got the snap tight closing valves on them. So once you disconnect this, it's a dry break, so you won't get any water, apart from a little bit of dribble that's in here. You won't get any water seeping out of here. And again, that's just a quick release snap fitting. So basically, if I want to remove the washer from the van, I've got quick release here, quick release there, and basically just wheel it straight out of the van. I've got no No messing around with Jubilee clips or anything like that. What else have I done? I've added the a new hour meter, which you can see there. It's always well worth fitting these hour meters. Let's see if I can get you in a bit closer. This is basically a tack meter, which obviously you need, which I needed basically for the new engine to make sure it was running at the full RPMs it should be. Obviously these engines are used in lawnmowers and things like that, so when you buy them, depending upon what application it was used for, could depend upon what kind of governing speed it is. Obviously if you do happen to buy a second-hand one off eBay or something like that, it may have a speed limiter on it that's governed for a different RPM range. So the tachometer there just basically ensures that it is running at full RPMs, and also that's an hour meter as well, so it'll tally up how long the engine's been running for and give you an idea on the amount of hours it's had before you need to service it. Moving round, let's go round here. Let's just pan down, see if we can get in. Not sure if it's going to see. No, bear with me. I'm going to wind you up. Wait a second. You would have seen in the previous video that I fitted the actual glass, sight glass, which is down there. You can see the oil level in there. It's actually an aluminium sight glass with a proper glass sight on it, so it's not plastic like the other one was. The other one kept disintegrating, which I think was down to a heat issue. As you can see, this is the gearbox here, and it sits, if I can just pan back a little bit and lift you up again, sorry about all the movement. You can see that the gearbox sits right above, right below the main exhaust. Obviously the exhaust is very, very short, so it's going to get bloody hot. Not exactly sure what temperature it kicks out, but I know it does get extremely hot. So what I've basically done is, you've obviously got this heat sort of mesh guard here. Not that it really does anything, because if you touch it when it's running, it will take your skin off your fingers. So I've basically just added a piece of 3mm aluminium underneath here and put some reflective heat shielding on top. So this is, I basically just drilled it and put some lock wire, some stainless lock wire to hold this in, which will obviously just help reflect some of the heat from the exhaust and keep it away from the pump. Obviously the pump sits in the middle. It's got a very, very high heat transfer because you're getting the heat from the engine, and also you're going to get a bit of heat build up from the pump. So the gearbox is kind of trapped in between, so it does get extremely hot. But that's really about it. I put some new tyres on it because the other ones just seem to started to disintegrate. So you can see I put some nice off-road inspired knobblies on there. They're off, I don't know, they're off like golf cart or something like that. But they're brand new. They're about 45 quid for a set of 4. They were cheap as chips. You just got to fit them yourself. They come with some new tubes and stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of the rebuild. Let's just pan you back out again. So yeah, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this selection of videos. I'm going to be doing some more videos coming up shortly on different various bits and pieces, just some little tips and tricks and things like that. But yeah, that's all from me. Happy cleaning. Bye for now.